Hey everyone! Before we begin today, we want to thank our newest patron, Miriam. Welcome to the team. If you want to be awesome like Miriam and get access to exclusive content like our notes, our Discord community, and our watch parties for the Persuasion adaptations, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/pod and prejudice. You all have been waiting so patiently for us to start our coverage of the Persuasion adaptations, so we are so excited to share, at long last, the first of 3 episodes covering the 1995 adaptation of Persuasion with our guests, the hosts of Fetch the Smelling Salts, Alice and Kim.
This is Becca.
This is Molly.
We're here to talk about Jane Austen.
We are here specifically to talk about Persuasion.
Adaptations.
Adaptations! We finally made it to Persuasion
Yay!
adaptations.
I love that you say finally as if it's been so long. I feel like this book flew by.
It did, but it felt like a really long time because we took 2 months off in between to share our live show audios and other things.
Yes, so you could be out of the country comfortably.
Exactly. So we're back recording new material. It's very exciting.
Listeners, if you're new here, I, Becca, have read many Jane Austen novels through my life.
And I, Molly, am reading her for the first time through this podcast.
If you want to hear Molly read through Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, or Emma for the first time, you can listen to seasons 1 through 3 of this podcast, but that is not what we're doing here today.
No, today we are talking about the 1995 adaptation of Persuasion from the BBC. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a BBC movie, I believe, starring Kieran Hines.
Famously. And we are joined to discuss it today by Alice and Kim from Fetch the Smelling Salts. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So, Alice and Kim, do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about what you do and what your podcast is about?
Yes, we do.
Go on, Alice.
On Fetch the Smelling Salts, we talk about period dramas. We love watching period dramas. We watch way too many movies and TV shows. Sometimes we also read books that have been turned into period dramas, but mostly it's TV, it's movies, and they're from every genre, everywhere around the world, every culture, every era. We don't care as long as it's set in a real time, a real place, in the past. We want to see it and we want to talk about it. And so we watch a lot of non-English language stuff, but we also watch a lot of, British people visiting each other and maybe kissing at the end. We love a Bollywood drama. We love a Korean drama. And we love just period drama butts.
Yes.
We love seeing a butt on the screen.
Shouts to Emma. 2022, 2021, 2020?
2020.
Oh, yeah.
2020.
Right at the start. Boom.
Yeah. Boom, bam, butt. That's what we want.
That's a pretty good summary of your podcast.
You can find us on all fine podcast platforms, etc. And I, Alice, I'm also doing another podcast that's coming out later this year, which is all about Jane Austen books, and specifically Jane Austen characters and what kind of sex they get up to. It is called Austen After Dark. It is a historical literary comedy sex podcast.
Love it. And Becca and I got to record an episode of that with you yesterday, and we had a blast. So I can't wait for our listeners to get to hear that.
The word blast is not a double entendre, right?
Oh, I can't wait to listen to this episode then.
So before we get into the adaptation of Persuasion that came out in 1995, we will start by asking our guests a couple questions about their relationship to Jane Austen, starting with the quintessential, what is your relationship to Jane Austen?
Wow. Okay. So, as a literary scholar, I was more of a late 19th century person. So I didn't read that many Jane Austen books. I will confess at the start, I've only read 3. I've read Emma, I've read Pride and Prejudice, and Northanger Abbey.
Did you just call it Northanger Abbey?
Northanger Abbey every bloody time. Northanger. You see, this is why.
Incredible.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, that's all I've read. Yo, I do love it. And I was just telling my housemate, she's never read Jane Austen, and I was telling her that, she like it's a lovely, it's like a warm hug, it's feel good. It makes you happy. Nothing really bad happens. Yeah. And her language is wonderful. And Jane Austen to me is something, you need to read to kind of like refresh yourself, just it's like have a cup of tea, have a Jane Austen book. Yeah.
Feel a little cozy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Totally. So that's my relationship with Janie girl.
Lovely.
I think Alice is a more intense one.
Yeah, but I didn't. I call myself a lifelong Jane Austen fan, and that's a little bit of a lie because I remember being assigned to read Pride and Prejudice in high school, and I famously just refused to finish reading any book in high school. And so I never finished reading it. I blagged my way through it, but then shortly after, I couldn't help myself. I went back to it, and I ended up getting a giant omnibus Jane Austen book because I didn't realize just how big and thick it would be, and so I carried that around with me for a really long time. And I think I left it in, like, a hostel in Uganda or something,
Ah,
Oh my
but
god.
then I just became obsessed, and that was really one of my entrees into. I already really love period dramas, but I just had to consume every single Jane Austen adaptation, even before I made sure I read every single book, because an adaptation is always going to mean more to me than the book. This is just the truth. And this adaptation in particular has really just stood out as one of my lifelong favorites.
that might lead us well into our next question, which is what's your favorite Austen content? And as Alice alluded to, it can be an adaptation, it can be a movie, a TV series, a modern day retelling, a Spotify playlist, whatever really, really grabs your attention.
Well, for me, it's definitely, Colin Firth, BBC, Pride and
Yes.
Prejudice. I know it's so basic, but it means a lot to me to the point where, so what happened was, so I was in Leeds, and then when that was when I was like doing my master's, and then I had, the DVD set, right, of Pride and Prejudice. And then when my parents, at the end of my degree, they came for my graduation, and then we had like a little holiday. And I remember we were in Paris, and there was like nothing else to do like that, at night. Because like no one, we didn't understand French. We can't watch French TV. So I was like, guys, I have my laptop. Let's all watch Pride and Prejudice, and it was really cute. So it was like me and my mom and my dad in a little hotel room rewatch, like I was watching it for like the bazillionth time, right? And then yeah, so we were just so that's my little happy memory. So that will always be
Oh,
my favorite.
I love that so much.
It's super beautiful, and the 95 Pride and Prejudice is basic for a reason. It's because it's so good that it's, like, sort
Mm-hmm.
of the centerpiece around which all other Jane Austen adaptations rotate, for sure.
Yeah.
So good.
And we watched it. We started this podcast in 2019, right before the pandemic hit, and I moved home to be in Syracuse with my mom. And so I watched the 1995 with her the first time. And I remember like I watched each episode like 3 times just to like, because we covered each episode in a
She
different.
wanted to keep going.
Yeah, I wanted to keep going, so I had to just keep watching them over and over again, and my mom would actually, like, sit and watch them with me, which was really cute. So I have a similar, like, this sweet memory of that.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And Alice, is this yours?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this might be my favorite adaptation, although I also really love the 2007 Northanger Abbey adaptation. I, of course, love the 1995 Pride and Prejudice as well. And Kim, you talking about Colin Firth and holidays made me think I'm actually going to say, if we're being broad with content, like the definition of thereof, in Bath at the Jane Austen house, at the Jane Austen Center, there is a statue, like a mannequin of Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy, and you can dress up yourself. So you can get yourself in like your a period outfit with a bonnet.
And you can hug him.
They do not stop you from touching the mannequin.
Woohoo!
Uh, I can't say it's encouraged, but no one's gonna tell you off. And you can just rub his butt as much as you
Are
want
people
to.
are people like kissing the statue?
I didn't see it. I didn't do it, but I'm gonna say yes.
But
But
you rubbed
that's
his butt a lot.
I did rub his butt.
For good
And
luck.
yeah, yeah. And I think I'm not the only one out there listening who has done that or aspires to do that. There is also, but that's not the only thing. His portrait is also in the tea rooms that are upstairs where you can get like a Jane Austen, like a bath bun and a whole like Regency style tea. And they have a portrait of Mr. Darcy, but it's Colin Firth.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
And so these recreations of Colin Firth Darcy, I think, are my favorite material culture.
Yeah, I have a magnet from there with like, a drawing, quote unquote, of Colin Firth as Darcy with, like one of his famous quotes. And I was like, oh, I love it.
Wow, Becca, I think that we need to plan a post-wedding trip to Bath.
I love the way you said that as if it's our wedding. But
Well, I just know that you're not going to be able to do a trip before you get married.
no, definitely not. But listeners, spoilers for another time. I'm sure Molly and I will one day find a way to do some creative, cool travel content related to Bath, England.
Okay, so our next question for both of you is, which Austen character do you most relate to? This can be from any book. But if it's from one that I haven't read, be vague with why.
No spoilers, but Catherine Morland, the protagonist in Northanger Abbey.
I haven't read Northanger Abbey. It's my one book I have not read by Jane Austen. And so we're excited to cover it on the podcast because we figured out a system for that and it worked quite well. But the only thing I know about Northanger Abbey is that Catherine Morland is like kind of the precursor to the Tumblr girly.
No, that's offensive. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, hey, listen, we were all Tumblr girlies here. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a compliment.
Wait, what's a Tumblr girly?
Oh, okay. Wait. Okay, Tumblr BLR, not. I thought you were talking about the big cup, the big sippy cup girl.
Oh my god.
No, not the Stanley Cup girly. On the internet in her fandom.
No,
girly.
yes, absolutely. She's a Tumblr
so
girly.
Funny.
She's a Tumblr girly. She like discovered porn through Tumblr.
Yep. She's a fanfic writer. Like that's the energy I get from Northanger Abbey.
That's so funny.
You were like, how dare you? She doesn't have a Stanley Cup.
No, that's exactly what I was. And so that only strengthens my point a little bit because she's a bit like she's she's no Elizabeth Bennet. Let's put it that way.
Oh, that gets me so excited to read Northanger Abbey. All right, Kim, how about you?
Okay, well, I too am no Elizabeth Bennet, sadly. Okay, I'm no Emma either. I would say probably Anne, like Anne Elliot.
Mhm.
Also because, okay, I'm gonna say this because I don't think my sister will listen to this podcast episode, but she never listens to anything until I actually explicitly send her a link and serve it to her on a silver platter. Oh my god, every bloody time I watch like Persuasion and I kind of like, see Mary, her sister, and her whole oh, I'm so sick. Nobody loves me. I'm like, oh girl, I feel you, Anne. How are you so patient? So yeah, so I totally, yeah. So Anne, I feel you. So that's she's my girl.
Incredible.
Oh yeah. 100%.
I have to say, I feel a special kind of kinship with Mary because I'm
Hypochondriacs unite.
listen, I mean, yeah, famously, I'm a hypochondriac. So, like, I relate a lot to Mr. Woodhouse and Isabella Woodhouse. Woodhouse? Yes, Isabella Woodhouse. Isabella Knightley. And I also find that Mary, I relate to because she's always like, why is no, like, as soon as I feel the slightest tickle in my throat or my nose, I become insufferable. I'm like, I need my medicine.
The amount of times Molly will be like, hi, she'll like text me when we're doing an in-person podcast record and be like, "Hi, being so respectful here. Like, I had a tickle in my throat 3 days ago. It hasn't cropped up again, but just in case you're uncomfortable recording in person with me, I wanted to make you aware."
I always like to text because I worry that you'll come and I'll go and then you'll be like, "Ah!" But
No,
that's not you, that's me.
to be clear, I am now equally like attuned to Molly's boundaries with illness and do equally put Molly on notice of any tickle I have had in my throat, but that is because I know Molly is paranoid and I want to be transparent with her.
That's fair. That's fair.
And that's love.
Yes. So, our final question before we get into the movie is what is your hottest Austen take? For us, some examples of this might be Lydia Bennet is a tragic character and not a nuisance. Or, for example, in this book, that Mary is an icon and a legend and no notes. Perfect invention of Jane Austen.
This is again a Northanger Abbey take, but I have always said that Northanger Abbey is the horniest book.
Mm.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, I have a hot Jane Austen take. I don't know why everybody be drinking that water. It really tastes like crap.
Oh, the bath water. I know exactly what you're talking about. It tastes terrible.
It does. I've been to Bath. I've tasted it. It's not nice.
That water is foul. It tastes like a sewer. No, not a sewer.
It smells like rotten eggs, right?
Yeah, it is. It's like a fountain took a fart.
100%. So I haven't been to Bath, but I have been places that have the springs in the United States, and it's the same concept. And I was like, oh, this is like refreshing and healthful. I tasted it and I was like, oh, I didn't know refreshing and healthful tastes like I just swallowed somebody else's fart.
It's gross.
Like, it's so gross.
Sorry, I could have gotten this on my grandma's farm in Wisconsin because they also use well water, you guys.
Question, in this movie when they are in the like sort of indoor courtyard room, is that
Yes.
what
Yes.
she's
Yep.
that's what they're chugging?
Yep.
They're
Yeah.
chugging the fart water.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That explains why Lady Russell downs it all in one gulp. Like,
Just like
yeah, I was like, what is she chugging? But she probably was holding her breath and was like, let me get this down.
Yeah.
It's like a Regency or a wheatgrass shot. It doesn't taste good. You do it for your health, right? That's the idea behind it.
I mean, that makes sense.
And then you walk around the room so that no one can tell exactly who farted because it is coming back out the other end.
Oh, of course.
Because it's just like sulfuric water.
It's not
I don't know, man.
I am not a scientist. I am not a hydro engineer. One of my old roommates was a hydro
You're
engineer.
not a hydro engineer?
I know, and I have a Jane Austen podcast instead.
Disappointing.
But I that is a hot take. I am 100% on board with. There is like no question. That is maybe my favorite hot take ever.
So let's dive into talking about this movie.
Yes. So to start for our listeners, it is a movie that is an adaptation of Persuasion done for BBC. The screenplay is by Nick Dear, directed by Roger Mitchell, and starring Amanda Wood as Anne Elliot and Kieran Hines as Captain Wentworth. Before Molly starts her summary.
Amanda Root.
Sorry.
Amanda
I said
Wood
Amanda.
is famously the main character in the movie The Holiday, played by Cameron Diaz.
I'm literally staring at her name and it says Amanda Root, and I said Amanda Wood. Amanda Root stars as Anne Elliot. Kieran Hines stars as Captain Wentworth. Before we get into the like full summary, last question we will ask you is your take on the movie, like generally.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it so much. I mean, I cried. I mean, this is my second time I'm watching it. And yeah, so I cried. And then I texted Alice and I was like, I'm bawling. And she was like, it's so good. So yeah, that's my take.
Oh,
Loved it. I also especially loved it because I really did not like the, what was it, 2020, 22. Yeah, not a fan.
we haven't watched that one yet, and we are so excited because of the way people talk about
Yeah,
it.
we've talked to one person who loved it, and I have a feeling that I'm going to love it. I'm putting this on the record.
She told me, like, so she hasn't watched it yet, but like we finished watching this movie. She goes to me, Becca, I think I'm going to like the 2022 Persuasion adaptation. And I was like, Molly, that is a dangerous thing to hope for because of everything we know.
Well, that might be a hot take.
It might be a hot take, so
That might be her Austen hot take.
yeah, we're gonna see. I'm putting it on the record now so people can like either be like, "Oh, she was right, she loved it," or "Ha ha 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 ha."
No, there's nothing our listeners love more than when Molly is just blindly wrong about something cheerfully for a long time and then gets corrected by either us or Jane Austen herself.
Well, we started recording our podcast in 2022, and Persuasion was the first movie that we decided to talk about because we were so moved by hatred.
Yes.
Incredible.
So please have a listen to that.
Oh, we will.
The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. So
That is true. Well,
True.
we were not indifferent to that
We did. We
adaptation,
had
so,
feelings.
yeah.
yeah.
I am really glad we have two like absolute lovers of this movie on the podcast because I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. It was not, I think, my favorite Jane Austen adaptation because well, we'll get into why, but I do think it had a lot of really good things to offer, a lot of critiques I would put out there, and sort of like the ways the story was portrayed.
Mhm.
But I think like ultimately, I think my good thoughts about it definitely outweigh my bad thoughts about it. But I'm really pleased because there's nothing I like more than when we talk about a movie and we have like guests who slightly disagree with us on the movie so that we can convince each other of our views, and B, like we have just a diversity of opinions on the movie just generally.
Yeah, I completely agree. And my overall take on the movie is probably that by the end of this recording, I'll be a big fan. Like, I'm easily swayed. I really liked it. And I thought everyone's performance, I didn't think anyone's performances were bad. I thought all the actors were incredible. My only major critiques were with like the cinematography and like the way the scenes jumped from scene to scene and the lack of a score. It was just kind of like, it was a little sleepy in that way.
We are big score people with Jane Austen movies, and score is very important. And the moments of score in here are beautiful. And then the ones where they're missing, I'm like, oh, I want the big swell of the music because
Yeah.
I'm drama.
Well,
I am a dramatic bitch.
The big swell of the music is like
Yes, yes, it was. I know.
which I loved. I
No,
loved it.
come on, Italian opera erasure.
True. Okay, fair, true.
How much more dramatic do you need?
Well, we'll get into it, but I think it's a good time to start chatting about the movie.
Yes. So we open up on Admiral Croft bringing his men over the seas in a rowboat to a big boat because the war is over. And I have to say, Admiral Croft, daddy.
Zaddy.
Daddy.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad we all agree.
Yep.
Yeah, no, definitely daddy. And I think what I liked about this as an opener was that it's one of the big themes of Persuasion generally is that like there is a juxtaposition between these like sort of superficial petty gentry men and the navy, which is fighting these big wars overseas, and you get this juxtaposition between the creditors of Sir Walter and Admiral Croft coming ashore having like neutralized Napoleon, and that frames the story in like, here are the concerns of these men who've just come back from war, and here are the concerns of the guys who stayed home and worried about nothing about except spending as much money as they possibly could.
What I love about this scene, and this is something that I cannot prove, but I hope that we can circle back to it at the end. I am convinced that the dudes in the rowboat are the same actors who are in the circus
Oh.
at the end.
You know
Ooh.
what? I think you're right. I think you can prove that because I thought the circus dudes looked familiar. And I thought one of the circus dudes, I was like, is that Admiral Croft?
No, there was one in particular where I noted him. I was like, I see you, rowboat man. And then there was the same man playing a circus drum. And I was like, all right.
This is why we all need to watch the entire credits because we need to look out for like that line that says Robot Man #1
Slash.
random
Slash juggler.
juggler. Yeah.
Clown.
Yeah.
Well, it makes you wonder, like, the war is over.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
What are they gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're chasing their passions at long last.
He probably learned drumming in the Navy.
That's true.
So true.
yeah.
Oh my God, you're so right. I love that for them. So yeah, as Becca said, it toggles back and forth with the creditors, and they're like chasing Mr. Shepherd and Mrs. Clay, being like, Sir Walter owes me money. Sir Walter owes me money. And they're kind of like acting like they're celebrities and the paparazzi is after them and they're like ducking out of the way. And we cut to Sir William in a room with
Sir Walter?
Sir Walter.
I'm going to be honest, every single part of my notes say Sir William.
Is that right? Ooh.
Control F that shit.
Control F, yeah, Control F.
Sir W, we're going to say. Sir Walter, he's in a room with Lady Russell and Mrs. Clay and Mr. Shepherd and Elizabeth. And he's like, I do not want a sailor as a tenant in my house. But we have to focus on Elizabeth for a second because we're introduced to a character who, in my mind, was going to be this like upright, very focused on like societal norms character. And instead we have Stockard Channing in a Regency era gown, slouched over a chair and like popping grapes in her mouth and like snorting in the corner at everything. Like no decorum. And I kind of love it. What are our thoughts?
Yeah. She's at home. She is too rich to sit up straight.
Yeah.
And this is something that I see in other adaptations, and I'm all for it. Yeah, she decided to play this pure psychopath.
Yeah.
Like she
Yeah.
has such intense rage issues.
Oh my God.
There's murder in her heart.
Yeah. That's someone like you're glad she was born to like this specific position in society where she can't inflict harm on a huge number of people, because if she had a little bit more power,
Yeah.
If she had less power and access to more people, just imagine if she were like a school marm or worked at a pub. Havoc.
yeah, the very particular position she is in society means the only person she's really making truly miserable is Anne, which sucks for Anne, but for everybody else, thank goodness it's contained. I think like with Elizabeth, it's one of the things that's sort of defined about her in the books is that she's so hot that she figures she can get away with a lot more than she can. And what I think is really interesting about this performance is the actress is very pretty, but like the way she plays up Elizabeth makes her so unappealing that you almost don't notice.
No,
Like-
and this is 1995. This is famously on the cusp, but before Britain figured out that you could put hot people on TV.
Colin Firth did that.
So it was that same year. So this is right on the edge.
Yeah.
And so no one in this movie is conventionally attractive in the way that you would maybe expect from a period drama now.
These days, yeah.
Yeah, these days.
These
days.
days.
You just couldn't cast this way and have
Yeah, I mean, it's not
famously hot
Bridgerton.
Elizabeth be. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. I should clarify that it's not actually Stockard Channing. I just think that she looks like her. I realize I said it like really just part of the same.
I know. No, because
I just believed you because I don't know anybody's name.
Stockard Channing is in Grease.
Yeah, I love Stockard Channing.
I think of her two big roles, Grace, Practical Magic, and now I have to add the 95 Persuasion in Spirit.
Yeah.
Which one is she in Greece?
She's Rizzo.
Rizzo,
Oh yeah.
Look
Yeah.
at me, I'm Sandra Dee.
Yeah. But anyway, I do love though thinking about the fact that like she is the reason she's acting like such a slob is because she's playing up the I'm so rich stereotype, which like or not stereotype, but like she's acting richer than she is in the same way that Sir Walter is, but different. Like same but different. So I do love that. While Sir Walter is talking about how ugly naval men are, Mrs. Clay says, have some pity on them. Not everyone is born to be handsome, and like
Oh
kind
my
of shows her
God.
tits.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They really upplay her flirting with him.
she's out to get that bag. You got to respect the hustle.
I do. It's a delusional hustle as well. I can't remember if she's meant to be hot in the book. I think they even talk about her having kind of a snaggly tooth
Yeah.
in the book, but maybe as though that's like a beauty mark. Like she flashed her snaggletooth at him.
I actually think she's perfectly cast in terms of the level of attraction she's supposed to have, because when Anne confronts Elizabeth about the possibility of Mrs. Clay taking over as, their new stepmother, Elizabeth said, "Oh, not possible. She's not hot enough." And Anne is like, "Okay, so she's not a perfect face, but she does have like nice hair and nice eyes and like a good figure and like Dad'd overlook the snaggletooth eventually if she's charming enough.
Mhm.
Like,
He won't look up that much.
Right.
Yeah, it's all about the boobs.
exactly. And this actress, not to be, I don't want to be disrespectful to this actress, but she fills a beautiful Regency gown quite nicely.
She does.
I've
And
already called everybody ugly on this show.
which is, we'll get to it, Henry Hater erasure, but like,
Yeah. Well, also Mr. Shepherd is another daddy in my mind. So
Molly, it's so funny to me.
I like an older man.
She does. It's specifically in these Jane Austen adaptations. In real life, like, you are partnered with like your age appropriate like girlfriend who looks nothing like any of these gentlemen, but in all of the Jane Austen adaptations, like, the person Molly is most drawn to is the older, slightly stately father who owns the estate. So
Can you imagine if you were like, yeah, Mel looks like Mr. Shepherd a little bit?
no, Melanie just simply gives off stately energy.
Yes.
She's a lovely looking human being.
Yes. I think I wanted to say that Mrs. Clay kind of looks like Caroline in New Girl. That was something that
Yes.
both Mel and I, when we were watching, were like, wait, is that Caroline in New Girl? Absolutely not. It's 1995. But anyway,
You guys reference so many non-period dramas. It is confusing to me and I feel attacked.
Yeah. I've seen New Girl. Wait, which one's Caroline?
she's Nick's evil ex. She's not evil. She's
Okay.
actually just, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Lady Russell is wearing this hat with these massive feathers coming out the back. Her hats in general, Becca's giving chef's kisses. I was like, her hats and her bangs are like an offense on society.
Alice has lots to say about bangs.
Oh, let's hear it.
I
noticed.
do hate a bang, a period drama bang, because nobody's maintaining that. Like, you're all just trying to not get cholera. But Lady Russell has done it in sort of a Regency way that I'm buying. But I also didn't really notice because the hats are so scrumptious. It's this, like, it's a cross between uh, a a turban and a like a hair bonnet for when you're sleeping, but also sometimes a top hat without a brim made of
Mhm.
satin.
I've never seen anything like it. It's like a cushion on her head,
Yeah.
and it's perfect in every scenario. I could not disagree with Molly Moore. I love the hats.
All of the hats in this film, I feel like this is part of like the historical accuracy overall in this film that I really, really like. I'm attributing it to historical accuracy because it feels like they are hitting on a very specific fashion moment that lasted a very short period of time that was really ugly, and then everyone was like, oh, it's fashion for like 6 months, and then they were like, bleh, for the rest of time. And I love that we get to see that depicted instead of bonnet.
Right, because she's wearing one and then later Mrs. Croft wears one, but I think, in my opinion, wears it much better. I think that the thing that really threw me off about Lady Russell's hat is the perpetual feathers, because first it's in the back and then when she wears a different one later, it's in the front in such a way that it looks like her hair is feathered, like she's in the 90s. So that's what really threw me off. But like, listen, I didn't hate it. I just thought it was bonkers. So she says that she has consulted with Anne and drawn up some plans for retrenching. And Elizabeth has this excellent moment where she goes, Anne, why?
Why Anne?
Cracked me up. And of course, Anne enters at that very same moment and sits in the only chair available, which is in the corner and not near where anyone else is sitting.
I mean, she's probably thankful of that though. She's like, oh great, I don't have to sit with anybody. I'm just gonna sit here, leave me alone, let me do my thing.
So true.
Amanda Root's performance in this is so dominated by like her doe eyes. Like, she looks like immediately like a deer in headlights dealing with everybody around
Yeah,
her.
I wouldn't call them doe eyes though, because I feel like that implies like a sweet, kind of almost puppy dog sad
Mm.
face. But hers, if you
Haunted.
it's haunted. She's
Mm.
haunted by the memory of this man. If this were a horror movie. Anyway, Elizabeth, when she is handed the plans for retrenching, yeets them. She just throws them on the ground, which I think is incredible. She's like, ugh. And Then we jump to dinner where we're talking about moving to Bath. And Mrs. Clay is like, "Oh, Bath sounds so lovely in the summer." And then she like kind of sips her soup really seductively
Yep.
at Sir Walter. I was like, "Oh my God, you need to tone it back, girl." And then Sir Walter asks who the Admiral is because we're talking about letting the Admiral come and rent. And when nobody answers, Anne does. And this is the first thing we hear her say. And when they ask who Mrs. Croft's brother is, because they're like, "Oh, yeah, doesn't she have a brother?" They say, "Anne, you recall, don't you?" And she goes,
Wentworth.
"Wentworth."
Wentworth.
She like chokes on the name, and it's so hot.
I have a random fact that
Yes.
I think this is when it appears. So I can't remember whether it was over dinner or was it over breakfast. Anyway, you kind of see all these pineapples on the
Yeah.
table, right? And did you know? Well, you probably guys, you of course you know this. So yeah, so basically pineapples were a symbol of, richness, because they were extremely expensive, right? And they would be able to, you could rent a pineapple. They had this thing. So
Just all of our jaws just fell to the floor, my
I
dear
know.
listeners.
So like if you're really, 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 really rich, you would like buy a pineapple, right? But if you're like not so rich and you kind of want to like show off that you have a pineapple or
You'd
multiple,
rent a
you could
pineapple.
rent a pineapple. So
Does anybody eat the pineapple?
no,
No,
it has to be
you
for
you
show.
just wait for it to rot, basically. I don't know if
Yeah.
they should be like dipping them in lacquer or something.
Right? Because I was like, how long does it last? Like how cost effective is that? And they had multiple pineapples, right? Because it was like showing how, look at us, we're so rich, or we kind of like you want to show off how rich we are. We have like 10 pineapples.
And that's why they're in debt.
And the
Yeah.
fucking ice swan.
Yes, the ice swan.
With the sorbet.
Yes.
Yeah, the pineapples did ring a bell for me because of Cabaret. So a pineapple for you, for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and then later on, just like fast forward right to when they're in Bath, we'll rewind, but yeah, even then I noticed that when they were in Bath, they kind of still had like two tiny little pineapples. I was like, people,
Oh, that's detail.
you have no money. Where you been getting these pineapples from?
They're in debt.
Exactly.
Those are their travel pineapples.
It's like a great manifestation of what Bath is, which is we want to portray luxury
Mm-hmm.
on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
So like the smaller pineapples make it look like they're still wealthy, like
yeah.
how their bathhouse makes it look like they're still wealthy because they're in Bath in a townhome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like that's a wonderful little detail. I've noticed like the whole thing is set up to make the Elliots look like insanely ostentatious in their wealth. And then immediately compared to every other like character we meet in the story, their level of wealth. Like, for example, we'll get there, but the Musgroves are quite wealthy and they're not living in the same level of like splendor that the Elliots are living in, clearly.
Mhm. Because well, it's all for show, and I think that it shows that it's all for show because they're doing, instead of having like real nice things, they have mini pineapples.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, what are you actually spending your money on?
Oh, you have mini pineapples? That's cute. We over here have happiness and lots of children.
Right.
Yeah.
And a harp.
Yeah.
Yes, and a
Oh,
heart.
a really nice harp.
So Sir Walter, when he is reminded of the name Wentworth, says that, "Oh, Wentworth the curate is nothing." And Anne gets up and walks away. And he's like, "Did I say something?" And Elizabeth goes, "Oh, father, you must remember the curate's brother, the sailor." And Lady Russell goes, "Let's not pursue it. We're talking about it." Like, they don't talk about it in the book, right?
I suppose they have to show something. They have to set him up.
You either need to like show or tell, and here it's a bit of a tell what happened. And this gets to another critique. Like what I want out of a Persuasion adaptation is that I want to like be shown what happened between Anne and Wentworth rather than told what happened.
You want some flashobacos?
Oh yeah, some flashobacos are much needed in a Persuasion adaptation, just to establish like why we care that Wentworth's coming back, why Anne cares that he's coming back, what he meant to her, and like we get that as we see them sort of like panic as they look at each other in this adaptation. But I would love to have that like have some backing in like what it was like when she was convinced away from him, persuaded, if you will. and like what that meant for her 8 years later. And I think that obviously the book gives that narration, but it would be like the benefit of film is being able to portray the story in a different manner. And so using what Jane Austen has written on the page already to tell the story in a more compelling manner. Here, it's a bit more just like, oh, she was in love with the curate's brother, the sailor. We all hate him. And then it flashes to Anne eventually saying to Lady Russell, I'm skipping ahead, oh, I know you meant well, and I don't like blame myself or you for like the decision to like refuse him. But all these years later, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, but then I don't get to see what happened in the moment that, made you now so regretful.
I like that we don't have that made explicit for us. I like that it's left a bit to our imagination because I really love the scene when she's clearing out her stuff and she finds tucked away in a little notebook the letter that you know is from him because it's folded
Mm,
in the shape of a sailboat, and
Mhm.
just how tenderly she picks it up and
Mm.
the way it looks kind of aged. And there's so much spoken in that little scene to me
yeah.
of pain. So I don't necessarily need to see exactly how everything went down and like the words they said to each other, right? It's the longing in the little boat.
The little boat scene is beautiful. I agree.
I agree too. And I also don't mind that we don't see of like flashbacks, but I do mind that we're talking about it and that everyone's talking about it, like that the family knows that this is why she's been suffering for 8 years and that she and Lady Russell are talking about it just because so much of what I imagine has been wearing on her for 8 years is the fact that she doesn't have an outlet for all of this pent up emotion. And I mean, Lady Russell does perpetually say, like, let's not talk about it, let's not talk about it. But it's being brought up enough that I feel like it comes up in this movie world. Whereas I think that something I liked about the book is that she really needs someone to talk to about all of
Mm.
this, but she
Mm.
can't. So, like, there's pros and cons. And I also fucking love the sailboat moment.
Beautiful, beautiful moment.
Isn't that yeah.
And okay, but I know that we won't talk about this when it comes up, but the sailboat, she's left it folded up like a boat this whole time. So, like, she hasn't read it in, like, 8 years.
No, and I don't know that she's touched it in that time, or if this is something that because she's going through a trunk. And so
Mhm.
this might have just been from, her shit from year 6,
Right.
and she's pulling it all out and having to like tangibly confront these memories again.
Do we think she's ever read that letter? Do you think he folded it up and handed it to her?
No, yeah, she's read it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure, and I'm sure he even taught her. I mean, in my mind, when they were courting and they were just like sitting in the field, he was like showing her how to fold little mini sailboats, and that was what they were
Oh.
doing. So I think like she got the letter, she read it, and she knew exactly how to fold it back.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, Sir Walter invites Mrs. Clay to come to Bath with them, and Lady Russell is like, "What about Anne?" And Elizabeth's like, "Oh, well, Anne's not coming. She has to take care of Mary." And this whole conversation is happening right in front of Anne, who just has to sit there. And I think that's a very good encapsulation of Anne's character in this story. Then we meet the Crofts, and of course, we have Lady Fiona Shaw.
she's so incredible. I love that she really can't conquer her Irish accent throughout this film. I love that for her and us. But she is conquering the hell out of that hat, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I love the way Mrs. Croft and Admiral Croft are depicted in this. They exude so much warmth, and the way that they're styled makes it obvious that they are like coming off of a life of adventure to settle down, and it makes them feel so aspirational as a couple. Which I think, in Anne's brain, they are
Mhm.
aspirational. That's kind of what she wants. Is she wants to be Mrs. Croft to Admiral Croft, but for Wentworth.
I know it must have been so painful. She'd be like, "Yeah, like
Ah,
that could have been me."
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Elliots go, and they each give a goodbye to Anne that is so indicative of their relationship over the last lifetime. Elizabeth is giving Anne a list of instructions on what to do while kind of staring dreamily into the distance and then walks away. And then Sir Walter just kind of gives Anne this dismissive wave, like, "Ugh," like she's something under his shoe, which is it made me mad, but also was kind of funny. And as he walks out, all the servants are looking at him with this just look of utter disdain on their faces,
Mhm.
which I also loved. Then we get the first hint of a score in this movie as the servants are covering up their nice furniture with sheets, and we finally get some music coming in the background. We get this little montage of Anne helping the servants pack up all of their things. We get the paper boat scene. We get Anne and Lady Russell sitting amongst a sea of cloth-covered furniture, talking about the fact that Anne is like, "I know that you didn't mean any harm by it, but I think I might have been happy if I had married Wentworth." She doesn't say married Wentworth, but she says it. She's like, "No, no, no, you were 19. He didn't have any money. He didn't have any prospects. You made a reasonable choice." And we've already talked about my feelings and all of our feelings about them talking about this, but it is a little moment of expose and leading us into the rest of the story.
I'm glad that we get to see her speak a little bit when she has a bit of freedom to be open so that we can see her body language. We can see the misery on her face when she doesn't have to buck up to be there for Mary yet. And so we get a
Yes.
sense of exactly where she is in herself. And so then we can see how she carries through for the rest of the film.
Yeah, totally. And I love this little moment where Lady Russell asks her if she's going directly to Uppercross, and Anne says, "Yeah, I prefer to be gone when when Admiral and Mrs. Croft arrive."
Mm.
And she like has to swallow down. She doesn't want to admit how much she's feeling this.
Yeah.
So as Anne drives away, she passes farmers on their fields burning crops, which I thought which what I think is happening is kind of them preparing for the next season and burning that season's crops, and I thought that was a nice, like, symbolization of, like, passing from one era of life into another and or the changing of the seasons. I think that's what's happening. I'm sure that some historian listeners will be able to correct me if that's incorrect, but I thought it was symbolic.
I have no idea what they're burning. At some point, I thought they were burning just like piles of poo. And it's because it's so quick. You're just like, what is that steaming pile? But, or smoky pile.
A steaming pile of shit.
Yeah, literally. Oh, I was more concerned with the pig and the goose or duck or whatever, right? And then she was bringing. I was like, that's a. I was like, is that what she's bringing to Mary? Like, here you go. Here's a pig.
That's a good point.
I didn't want to bring it up when we were watching because Molly is vegan and my fiance Mike is a vegetarian, and that pig was in the back, and I was like, I bet she's like bringing dinner.
No,
Oh,
she's not.
no.
Okay, so the pig and the goose are also going to see their sisters
Okay, okay. They're just gonna hang
who
out.
live on the grounds of Uppercross. And so she's giving them a ride.
Ah, yes. And that pig is a huge hypochondriac at
Yeah.
upper class. And so that, like, the Kellinch pig has to go, like, comfort and do a bunch of emotional labor for the for the upper cross pig.
But the goose has a much better relationship with the sister goose, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, thank
Okay.
goodness, yes. Although they do so wish their brother had married the other
Yeah.
goose.
Okay. Right. We've cleared that up. Thank you.
You know how there's a spin-off of Pride and Prejudice, which is just like the servants of Longbourn? We also need one for
All
the
the animals.
animals. Yeah.
On our podcast, we famously do not like, and sometimes just will refuse to cover a movie or TV show
Mhm.
if anything bad happens to an animal. But if it's a small part of it, we're pretty good at kind of retrofitting that into our
Yep. Yep.
worldview of no animals actually getting hurt.
You're like, the dog is fine.
To this day, one of my favorite moments from our podcast is that we were halfway through reading Pride and Prejudice, the first book we covered, and Molly turns to me and goes, "Becca, where are the dogs?" And I said to Molly, there are always dogs. There are dogs
Mhm.
everywhere around. And this is canon. Like, they just hang out. There are the lounging dogs, there are the herding dogs, there are the hunting dogs, and they all hang out all the time in the background as part of the scenery and part of the, like, joy in the lives of these Jane Austen characters.
Oh yeah, they're living the best lives. All the dogs are they're good.
There are always dogs.
Yeah, when Charles comes in later in this movie and he's like, "I've come for the dogs."
I was like, of course you have.
Yeah, me too, dude.
And like again, we're getting so tangential, but like one of the great moments of Persuasion is when they have to come back early from hunting because they brought a puppy out to do it and he wasn't doing a very good job
He
yet.
couldn't find it.
Yeah.
He couldn't find it.
He couldn't find it.
I felt it. I was like, if that so my dog comes from a line of hunting dogs, and I'll be like, oh yeah. You put Bodhi out there, he'll just be like, woohoo!
Having a great time.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm running around.
Scare all the birds away before you can
Yep,
shoot them.
yep,
Yeah.
totally.
So we're coming up on Mary's house, and when Anne arrives, she sees Mary peeping through the window, and as soon as they make eye contact, Mary ducks out of sight.
Yeah.
And when Anne comes in, she's lying under the window,
I'm
like on her
dying.
sick bed. Yeah, she's like, "I've been so ill."
I'm going to like at this moment just take a beat and say this is my favorite performance in the movie. Mary is to me one of Jane Austen's creatures of comedic genius. Every line she has in the book is pure gold and like you want someone to deliver on that in an adaptation. Sophie Thompson, Emma Thompson's sister, is delivering an 800% performance at all times in this movie and every line delivery of hers is pure gold.
You guys have covered the Emma adaptations.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So you know what a phenomenal Miss Bates she was as well.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So good.
Yeah. It's somehow it's not giving the same energy, but it is giving the same high, very niche level of performance.
And like the way she is able to acutely play a lack of self-awareness is so perfect in every moment. Every moment she's on the screen, I am just thriving. Like I loved this performance.
Yeah, one line that she said that really tickled me was, "I do believe if Charles were to see me dying, he wouldn't believe there was anything wrong with me."
Oh, I was again, as I've already explained at the start.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's triggering for
So
you.
triggering, I tell you. Oh my god. No. I will agree. Like her performance is amazing, but because it was so bloody good, I was like, oh no.
I loved this as well, especially on this watching, maybe more so than other watches, not because I am Mary wise inclined, but I do have an ulcer right now, and I am being very brave about it
You are.
and telling everyone I know about this ulcer and how brave I am in suffering through my ulcer. Because I already have a whole thing with my back, and now I have a whole thing with my front as well.
It's just to balance it out.
So it's a double-sided bravery. And so, like, uh, somehow I was trying to be more generous to Mary. I was like, you know what? Maybe you have an ulcer and no one cares.
She probably does. She's stressed herself out.
This is actually a very ongoing conversation within our fandom, whether or not Mary is just so starved for attention that she has learned to imagine symptoms for herself constantly, or whether or not she actually has symptoms of some ailment that everyone's ignoring because she is ignored constantly. And one could read her either way.
Yeah. I mean, probably not an ulcer because of the quantity of ham she's eating,
Oh my god, look at how much she's eating. Okay, she's fine.
but maybe she has endometriosis. I don't know.
Maybe she's just depressed. Like, you never know. Anxiety can cause a lot of really weird physical symptoms in a person.
Yeah.
She probably needs magnesium. She definitely needs vitamin D.
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't have any of that shit.
No.
She is complaining and complaining. She complains that Anne hasn't asked her about her dinner at the pools the night before. And Anne is like, "I assumed you couldn't go." And she's like, "No.
Oh, no. I was perfectly fine last night.
She said, "Just today."
Just today.
And then when Anne does ask her about her dinner at the pools, she's like, "Oh, well, it was nothing remarkable." And she starts complaining about how on the carriage ride home, she was smushed between the two other girls.
Yeah.
And she's like, "It's probably why I'm ill." It's iconic. Then they go to the great house where the Musgroves live, and Henrietta and Louisa have gotten a harp. And Henrietta also is Mrs. Forrester in the 1995 Pride and Prejudice. I love her.
And without spoiling anything, she will pop up in other adaptations of Jane Austen's work as well.
Oh, good. They want to induce Anne to play the piano, not the harp. And Mary is like, "Well, I play quite as well as Anne. Don't you want me to play too?"
The silence that follows that is like 10 seconds long.
It's really
Like,
good.
of course.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mary.
But you know what? You dance so much better. So we just love to see you dance.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, and also that's the first time we're introduced to the notion that Anne has quite given up dancing. They're like, "Well, Anne doesn't like to dance anyway, and you dance so well, so let Anne play while you dance." Then we get the famous montage of everyone gossiping at Anne while they sip tea.
You know I love a
Chef's kiss.
montage, Alice. You know I love a
I love a montage.
montage.
This
I'm
is
obsessed with them.
this is my favorite scene in the movie. It's incredible. Anne acts it so well, even though she doesn't say anything.
It tells you everything you need to know about Anne's debacle, which is this is her best case scenario in her life, which is hanging out with her better sister, with people who genuinely like her as a
Who
person.
are nice. They are nice people.
Good, nice people, wealthy, good connections. And still her life is sitting there with a cup of tea while they all talk shit about each other, which if it were me, I'd be having a great time. I would be living because I enjoy a good gab. But Anne,
Give me some of that cake.
No, but the thing is, they're not just talking shit though. They're asking her to try to solve things. Again, triggering for me because when I go back, whenever I see my family, it's always like, oh, blah 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 blah. Can you do something about it? I'm just like, you don't see me for like 6 years. I come back and I'm supposed to solve everybody's problems.
Mhm.
the amount of emotional labor Anne Elliot takes on is honestly remarkable
Yeah.
in her life. It's crazy. And even from these people who like are her actually like helping her out quite a lot right now by like letting her stay with them, but at the same time, like the amount she has to do at any given moment, and the way that Amanda Root plays this across her face, it's like she doesn't have a line in the
No.
scene, and you know exactly what Anna's thinking.
Imagine having to manage the emotions of your brother-in-law who also asked you to marry him at one point. And
Yeah.
like you have to help him navigate his marriage to your little sister.
Yeah. I think that their relationship is so interesting because I have to imagine that he wasn't necessarily in love with Anne. She was just the most appealing of the three sisters. And her saying no, I don't imagine that it broke his heart, but I do imagine that there's some awkwardness between them now. But like the moment that he walks in and she says, "You were missed at luncheon, Charles," and he gives this long suffering eye
I was
roll.
like,
I'm like, actually,
fuck.
I feel like you two are friends. And
Yeah.
No, yeah, and I think they would. So one thing I know, kind of to add some kind of historical context to this, is that once your sister, in this case, has gotten married, let's say if Mary were to die, there's absolutely no way, kind of socially or legally, that Charles would be able to marry Anne because, in the eyes
They're
of the
like
law and the eyes of
brothers.
society, that they are siblings now, and so they
Mhm.
do.
Mhm.
I feel fall into that sibling relationship and have that kind of understanding between themselves, which I find quite sweet.
Mm.
And the way that moment plays is really interesting because it gives context to what that relationship looks like, which in what we've seen so far is very obviously these two spend a lot of time negotiating how to take care of Mary. And that Charles, for his faults, does try to take care of his wife, often fails and corrects. And like you can see the two of them kind of being like, her being like, "Hey, you got to take care of Mary this way," and him being like, "Oh God, again," and like, "Oh, can't you come take care of Mary?" Like that negotiation between the two of
Mm.
them feels like it has history behind it when
Mhm.
she says, "You were missed at lunch."
Go do it. Go talk to her. Not to harp on this too much because we're not talking about this book, but in that case, are Emma and Knightley not related?
No, so that's a different story because his brother has married her sister.
But so she's legally sisters with his brother.
But not with him. Yeah.
But not with him.
Yeah.
But that doesn't compute. It doesn't compute.
So Isabella is like his sister, John is her brother, but
And it
there's
just ends there.
not
Yeah.
that kind of connection with each other.
It's
It's a loophole.
It's a loophole.
The only thing you need to know is that when they remade this story in the 1990s, they put more incest in there.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
So the Admiral and Mrs. Croft come to pay their respects to the Musgroves, and the kids love Admiral Croft, and it is
So
adorable.
cute. Like he's such a nice guy.
He is, and he like teaches them how to make the little boat, and that
See, that's why I know in the depths of my heart that like, Wentworth also taught Anne how to make a little boat.
Oh.
yeah, which is why she's staring at them wistfully.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, again, the immediate warmth coming off of those two characters. And also the Admiral loving children is an interesting thing because they're an older couple. It's clear they're not going to have kids. And it kind of tells you a little bit about them as well, that they have an adoration of children, but no
Mhm.
children. And I just Fiona Shaw's performance as Mrs. Croft is like so perfect for how I pictured her in the book. It's one of my favorite things about this adaptation as well.
Fiona Shaw is my favorite part of anything.
Oh god, yeah. And it seems like the way that she's delivering it, you would think that maybe this is a point of sadness or longing for them, but really they only seem to exude the joy that they have for each other and the lives that they've shared together, and just the fact that they don't have children is just that. It's just one of those things. And so they love the children that they're around.
Totally. So while this is happening, Mrs. Croft and Anne are having a little conversation, and Mrs. Croft is like, I think that it was you and not your sister that knew my brother. And Anne's eyes go huge. Like you can see all the whites around her irises. And Mrs. Croft tells Anne that he is married. And Anne's panic, like she looks like she's going to throw up.
Mm.
And the camera stays focused on her face when Mrs. Croft says, "Oh, and he has a new curacy too." And you see her just like
Just
almost
melts.
burst into tears with
She's like,
relief.
oh, thank God.
I was just like watching this, I was like, it's insane that this girl ever thought, at least in the book, that she was being subtle with her emotions.
Yeah, there's so much internal panic and persuasion. One of the deep challenges of adapting it is that you want to be able to show that internal panic without making it obvious. Because if Anne is one thing, she's subtle. Like she's she's very good at masking her emotions and prioritizing other people's emotions to a fault. And in this moment, it's because we get that really deep cut to her face, like this
Mhm.
close, that we can see it all play out so big. But like to others, like, is Mrs. Croft sitting there and watching her go and being like, "Oh, weird." Like, why does she care that much?
Right. It's like maybe her eyes are just always that big.
Yeah.
And they kind of are.
To be yeah, they
So,
are.
um, but they do mention that her other brother is coming, and they're like, "Oh, you wouldn't have met him. He's the sailor." And Mary's like, "No, no, no, Anne, you know him, right?" And Anne's like, I met him. I met him
Once or twice.
once or twice." Later, they are releasing that little boat, the paper boat, onto the water, and Henrietta runs up to invite them to the Great House for dinner to meet Captain Wentworth. And Anne is like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god." And when she's getting ready, she's like looking at herself in the mirror and she's like adjusting her little tendrils. And then she hears a scream from outside. And we see outside, and little Charles is limp and being carried, and Mary is screaming and sobbing, and they're like running him back. And he has, of course, dislocated his collarbone. And also knocked up his face, like, really bad. He fell out of a tree in this. In the book, it's off a horse, which he shouldn't have been riding a horse anyway because he's, like, 4. But
No, I think he falls off like a little wall or something
Foreshadowing.
in the book or the movie?
in the book.
Oh, I don't know why in my mind he fell off a horse. Yeah, foreshadowing. Yeah, okay, so maybe it's not a horse. I don't know where I came up with that.
No, yeah, I think the like long and the short of like what you need to know is that like little Charles is playing roughhousing and like falls off something he should not have been
You're so
climbing
right.
and dislocates his collarbone.
Yes. Of course, Charles, Big C, decides to still go to dinner, and Mary is pissed, and she's like, "Well, if his father can, why shouldn't I?" And Anne is like, "Okay, go. I'll stay with the kid." And you see her just like calmly swabbing his face, but you know that she's like avoiding. She's like, okay, one more day I can go without seeing Wentworth. It's gonna be fine.
She's like, "Thanks, little Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
You really did Auntie a solid on this one."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This moment also translates so differently in the movie, and I think it has to because in the book, like, by the time they're going to dinner, it's, like, known that little Charles is gonna be fine,
Mm-hmm.
um, but in this moment, like, you're looking at the, like, bludgeoned face of a little child, and, like, his mom is in front of him being like, "Why can't I go to dinner?"
Yeah.
And the mom's like, "Oh yeah, well that's okay because you need, you're the best person for this because you don't have a mother's heart. So,
Mm-hmm.
you're not gonna be pained looking at him. Okay, bye."
It is a little bit iconic though, because when Anne is like, okay, go then, I'll stay with him. It's kind of like sharp. And Mary's like, you would think that she would be like, no, 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 you should go. But she's like, huh, that's not a bad idea. And it's just like kind of hilarious.
It's like, if his father doesn't care about him, why should
Right,
I?
exactly. And then we get a transition, like a slide wipe to dinner, and we see just through a window Henrietta looking at a man's body. Well,
Yeah.
Aren't we all?
we are. Henrietta, and then like the back of a man. And Henrietta is giggling and like leaning in and a little bit flirting. And we see, of course, this is the back of Wentworth's head, which is a great place to wrap up this first part of the 1995 Persuasion. Alice and Kim, thank you so much for joining us for this.
Thank you.
Do you wanna tell the people where they can find you?
Yeah. You know what? Just go to our Instagram. We've got an Instagram. You can find us at Fetch Smelling Salts. You can find us on Apple iTunes and Spotify and Pocket Cast and all those great places.
And that's the same for your podcast, right, Alice?
Oh,
Austin
right.
After Dark.
You can
Yeah.
also find Austin After Dark on Instagram. It's Austin After Dark.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much again. And we'll talk to you very soon for the rest of this movie
And until next time, stay proper.
and learn how to make a little paper boat to impress your lover.
Yes.
Pod and Prejudice is edited by Molly Burdick and audio produced by Graham Cook. Our show art is designed by Torrance Brown. Our show is transcribed by SpeechDocs Podcast Transcription. For transcripts and to learn more about our team, check out our website at podandprejudice.com. To keep up with the show, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Pod and Prejudice. If you love what you hear, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/podandprejudice to see how you can support us, or just drop us a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening.